onboarding, right? And we're going to talk about why it's the most important aspect of your coaching experience. So I was saying that I have a freebie available for you called Your Memorable Onboarding Experience. And it's like a multi-part toolkit. So there's a 40-minute video training on onboarding. And then there is a 10-page checklist, and then there's a 10-page guide. So there are several different components of this, okay? So if you download it, I do encourage you to like carve out a full hour just to watch it and engage and things like that. So let's talk about why onboarding is the most important aspect of your coaching program. So I mentioned previously when I was apparently on mute on Facebook that your onboarding sets the tone for your client. So to illustrate this and map this out, I am actually going to talk to you about my coaching onboarding process. I'm going to walk you through what I do for my private clients, okay? So people who come into my one-on-one program, my fast track program, or my VIP day, I'm going to walk you through what I do. And I'm hoping that will actually illustrate for you what you should be thinking about with your onboarding. So one of the first things that happens with my experience when someone says, yes, I am ready to place a deposit and get started, the very first thing we do actually on that discovery call, on that consultation, is I actually explain to them what the next steps are. Okay. I know we are in a digital age. Okay. I know we want to do videos and audios, and I am here for it. I leverage those tools, but there is still value in actually talking to the client, right? And explaining to them next steps. So I explain to them, you're going to get several emails from me. It may feel overwhelming. That's okay. You're going to get a contract. You're going to get a welcome email. You're going to get a client form, okay? And you're going to get login credentials, right? They're going to be 4 emails that you're going to get from me. You need to look at all of those emails. And this is the order of which I need you to send things back. And then once you get all those emails, this is how we're going to proceed with actually getting started with coaching, okay? So I do briefly explain it on the phone. From there, I actually send them the contract, and the contract actually reiterates a lot of the process, right? So let's talk about why the contract piece is important in nearly all types of coaching. The contract is a written agreement between you and the client around what's actually being delivered, the time frame of the delivery, the pricing and agreed payment schedule, the communication policy, confidentiality terms if there are any, what happens if they want to quit, and anything else that's important for your business, right? Maybe you have terms around intellectual property, about your content not being shared. You may have other things. It's really important to document this, okay? I've been really fortunate where I haven't had like clients act crazy with me, but I've heard stories of other people where it's like, for example, a client drops out of a program where when they signed the contract, it was like, this is not Netflix. You can't just cancel this coaching plan. It's not a pay as you go kind of situation. So that's the benefit of having all of that stuff in contracts. One other thing that I really like to call out in contracts is timeline, right? Because in private coaching, it is really easy for a 90-day program to turn into a 6-month program, right? The client goes for 2 months, pop back up, goes again, and now you're like, I'm at capacity. I don't even have space for this person, but your contract didn't cover you. You didn't actually include terms that says what your ghosting policy is, right? You didn't include terms on when the contract expires. You didn't include terms around refunds, stretched out payments, this, that, and the third, right? So you really want to include the timeline. And even for my VIP day, which is a one and done situation, I even include language around how many times you can reschedule. I include language on what happens if you're late to a coaching call, which is the coaching call will happen, but we're not making up that extra time, right? And so these are things that you need to then build into your contracts, and then you both sign off on it so that you are crystal clear on how things work. There shouldn't be any surprises when we have signed agreements, okay? And this is the thing too, as business owners, you need to be very specific with these agreements. You cannot leave things up to interpretation or chance, because that's when you run the risk of getting into some serious trouble. So that's really important to call out in a contract. In the intake form, you really want to double check that you're not asking the exact same thing that you asked them on the discovery call form, because at that point, it becomes redundant. If you use a tool like Dubsado for this stuff, Dubsado will actually plug in answers to questions that they may have previously answered, like, name, email, phone number, that kind of stuff. But now it's like, okay, the discovery call form is what information do I need to actually see if you're a good fit for the program? The client intake form is now what do I need to know to actually service you in my program, okay? So they're two different forms. So you want to make sure that you're asking good questions. So here's the thing. A lot of people try to copy other folks' forms. But the problem with that is even if they're in the same niche as you, it's like you need different information to sell your program and to service your clients. So you have to spend time thinking about what is relevant for you to know to actually do your job. We don't want to ask questions just to be nosy. We need to actually ask questions that's going to help us do our job and track our metrics. So that intake form is really important, okay? The welcome email, I actually recently merged the welcome email and intake form email, so they're all in one. The welcome email honestly does a lot of reiterating of the things that I've said at the end of our discovery call when they committed and things that are in the contract, right? So when you're doing onboarding, you're going to find yourself repeating things a lot, and you almost have to. It's like, I don't want to say people don't listen, but oftentimes people are so excited, things may go over their head, or they're so nervous, all they're really listening to is payment terms, and they're not listening to anything else. So you do need to reiterate things multiple times, right? So the welcome email is a very short version of what has already been said. So next step. So first, welcoming them to the program and to the company. And then it's like, here's what happens next. And then I give them a bulleted list. You will receive these documents. You are to sign these documents. This is where you start your pre-work. This is how you book a coaching session, right? Here's how to contact me, right? Then that's it, right? Very, very, very simple. Okay. And then even I have a client portal. You don't have to have a client portal, but I have a client portal. And in my client portal, I have a very brief video that reiterates all of this again. Why am I telling you this? Why is this important? Because again, the onboarding sets the stage for the client experience. If the onboarding does not give them specifics, there's going to be unmet expectations, right? You need to be very, very clear around how your program works, what your communication policies are. Are you available in between coaching sessions? If you are, so this is one thing, if you have like virtual support, like Voxer, emails, Facebook groups, you really want to spell out in multiple places when you'll actually be available in those groups. And you might need to remind your folks of that, and that's okay. But as long as it's actually written where they can see that policy crystal clear, you're going to want to make sure that you do that. Because if you don't give them that policy, if you just say, hey, you have Facebook support, if they message you and you aren't able to get back right away because you're working or doing something else, that can cause them being disgruntled, right? And you would expect people to say, well, I know that you're busy, I know that you're working, but oftentimes that's not how it works. People, think other things. So having your communication policy spelled out is just super, super important. And again, putting it in the contract. And if you need to, you can have people initial each section of the contract so that you can verify that they read it. But again, setting the stage, setting the tone. Something else that's important for you to do in your onboarding process is you need to make sure the client is clear on what they're actually learning and getting out of the program. Especially for people who are doing one-on-one coaching and private coaching like myself, it could be really easy to dive into this boat of like customizing every single thing to the point where no two coaching experiences are similar. And the problem with that is that means you're not teaching consistent frameworks, you're not teaching consistent strategies, and you're going to have a very hard time scaling your coaching business. You'll always be capacity. So you want to make sure that you are clear on what's in scope of your program and to not get into the habit of doing favors and taking on extra projects and now going from being a coach to now being a freelancer because you are doing all of this done for you work. You want to make sure you're staying within your zone of genius, okay? And know that telling someone no is not a bad thing. Right? I'm very transparent. Hey, this is where my skills are. This is where my skills are not. I cannot, unfortunately, build this for you, but I can point you to some resources. I can point you to some tutorials or to somebody else that does it. But you want to get out of that habit. And I say that because when I started my coaching business years ago, when I was doing career development and personal branding, that's how I ended up in, writing people's bios and things like that. Well, that was just completely outside of the scope of what I was supposed to be doing. So that goes back to Monday's live stream where I talked to you about, one of the things that your coaching program is missing is actual learning objectives. You have to map those things out and stick with them. So, here's what month 1, month 2, month 3 looks like. Here's what call 1 and call 2 and module 1, or however you break down your program. This is what these things look like. This is what you're going to gain. This is what you're going to learn. So being very clear. Oftentimes, you might be somebody's very first coach. They may not know how coaching works. They may be confused on what this means. And so in your onboarding process, you need to explain this to them so that they are clear and they are comfortable with moving forward. So after all of the paperwork and all of the emails and they get started in their pre-work, I actually send my clients a physical welcome kit. Now, this is not required, and there aren't very many coaches that do this. I know I've been coached by a couple of different people, and not everybody does this, but you all know that I'm in branding. I love branding, and I love experiences. I love things that are memorable, so I actually send client welcome kits. I actually started to do this and got this idea from when I used to host my conference, Hustle Her Way, and I would order a lot of branded stuff for the conference, and I would have all of this extra stuff laying down because if you've ever ordered like promotional branded items on the internet, you have to buy a lot of them. So we would always have extras. So I've just continued that trend, even though the conference no longer exists. We've since, retired it. But I wanted to show you guys some of the things that I include, right? So, of course, I'm missing some of them. But one of the things that I include is a little welcome postcard, right? That has my picture on it and a note that just says, welcome to the company or welcome to the coaching program. I'm so excited to have you here. And it just has like my signature. The reason why I use this versus a handwritten note is because my handwriting is so bad. Like, it's so bad, they probably wouldn't be able to understand what I wrote anyway. So I just logged into Canva, whipped up this little postcard, ordered it through Canva, and that's what I include in my client welcome kits, and it works. So they get a card. They get a branded pen. I actually ran out of my branded pen, so I'm waiting on my next order. You can order branded pens anywhere. If you type into Google, promotional pens, price compare, request some samples, and get the best one for you. But we do have Power Collective branded pens. And then the other thing that they get, which is also unique to us, is a Power Collective journal. So this is unique to our brand. I hired a designer to make this for me. And I get this printed through Kindle Direct Publishing, which is Amazon's company. But it's a very simple journal, and it just says, it has our logo, the Power Collective Journal, and it says, exercising the power of collecting ideas. And then from there, and if you're a new client and you're like, where's my journal? Literally, Amazon just dropped these off. So they're going back out in the mail. And then at the bottom, it has my name. So if you're a coach, and then the back script just kind of reiterates like the, power of collecting ideas. And then the back says, write and repeat. Then on the inside, they just get blank space to write. And then our logo is at the bottom of each page. So this is unique to us, this journal thing. And yeah, again, I'm all about branding and experiences. So I thought that this would be a really cool touch. And I used to have like these, fake leather bound journals that had our logo on it because I used to get those from the summit. But I like them, but I just wanted something a little bit more me, if that makes sense. So that's this. And then we also send them 2 bags. So this is one bag that we send. We've had different variations of this. This is actually bigger than the usual one just because of our supplier. So I actually buy this from a local business, a small business in Pittsburgh, and it's Black woman owned. So she makes these cute bags for us. We've gone through several iterations of it, but this is what it looks like currently. So one side says Power Moves, and then the other side says Power Collective. So the other ones were a little bit smaller. They were more like pencil totes, and these are like travel bags, honestly. But we had some black versions and some light gray versions, and they're super cute. And then this one is a different version of the bag that we used to send. This is my favorite one. So super cute, but we always keep it the same thing. And then we have an insulated mini lunch tote. So the mini lunch tote is left over from the final Hustle Her Way. And the reason why they're left over is because when I bought them, I was going to use those as the summit bags, but they were so small that I couldn't fit everything in there. So I ended up just being like, well, I have 200 extra bags. So I'm just now finally starting to run low on those. So I don't have one in front of me, but they're small. They're like snack totes, in my opinion. You could probably fit like a sandwich and a banana and some yogurt in there. Like, that's really it. You couldn't fit like Tupperware or something in there. But they're little black lunch totes that are insulated, and they say the Power Collective on there. So that's this. And then depending upon which coaching program they're in, whether they do a VIP day or fast track, they get copies of my books. So almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody gets All in Favor of Branding. This book is on Amazon. This is my most recent publication. This is from last year. So they get a copy of All in Favor of Branding, and then they get Project Manage Her. This is also on Amazon. So this is my planner. So it's undated, and it's a project planner. So it has sections for marketing, for client management, projects, things like that. So I find my clients appreciate this kind of stuff anyway. The reason why I do client welcome kits, even though it can be costly to do that, is because I honestly feel like getting something physical that you can actually touch and hold just makes it real. Like, I do appreciate that my business is 100% virtual and that I'm able to do my job anywhere and I have clients everywhere. Because even when, the pandemic hit, like, that business grew like crazy for me. There was no stop in business at all because I spend my day on GoToMeeting every day, which is a webinar conferencing platform. So I find that sending these things in the mail, it elevates the client experience, it elevates onboarding, and it makes things real for people. So that's why I do that. So, you don't have to do a welcome kit that's just extra lavish, but even if it's just like a handwritten note that you send, or a pen, or just a small token. Again, if you go to Google and just type in promotional items or branded items, you will find a ton of options. You can even request catalogs. So we have some new branded stuff coming. So the welcome kits are being revamped. When the new items get here, I will show you all. But I definitely upped my budget. I upped my budget for welcome kit because, one thing to consider, especially with just higher ticket, you just want elevated experiences, right? And so, that means elevated virtual experiences. So thinking about what your, not only what your onboarding looks like, but what the portals you're using looks like, your communications, and then also your client welcome kit. So wanted to walk you through my onboarding process. And again, just remind you that getting the yes is not where things end. Someone saying, yes, I'm ready to make a deposit, I'm ready to work, is not like the end of it, right? Like, that's when the work begins. So do not discredit the onboarding experience and don't just take it for granted. So again, click the link in my bio or the link above and download your memorable onboarding welcome kit. It is completely free. Again, it's a 40-minute video training and 2 10-page downloads and checklists and all of those different things. After you view that toolkit, there should be no reason why your onboarding experience is lackluster. And if you haven't had any clients yet, now is the perfect time to start thinking about it so that you are prepared when your clients say yes. Because what you don't want to happen is someone says yes and you are completely unprepared for what happens next, okay? So with that, I will talk to you all in the next live stream. Y'all have an amazing day. Bye.